to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nauri. In today's bulletin, we will get you detailed news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. US high school shooting leaves 3 dead, including suspect. Biden to get updated COVID-19 booster shot, promote vaccine. Biden targets Nicaragua's gold in new move against Ortega. Florida Governor DeSantis refuses to commit to serving full term. Early in-person voting starts in Wisconsin amid lawsuits. Harmony Montgomery's father arrested on murder charge. Ash Carter, Defense Secretary who opened jobs to women, dies. Leslie Jordan, versatile Emmy-winning actor, dies at 67. Adidas ends partnership with Ye over anti-Semitic remarks. Russian court rejects Griner appeal of her 9-year sentence. King Charles appoints Rishi Sunak as UK PM. German president visits Kiev as West moves rebuilding plan. Brazilian voters attacked by misinformation days before vote. Ethnic group says Myanmar air attack kills 80 at celebration. Fields Bears scored 23 straight points, beat Pats 33 over 40. And Qatar's Emir lashes out at criticism ahead of FIFA World Cup. Now news in detail. A 19-year-old gunman opened fire at a high school in St. Louis, Missouri on Monday, killing 2 people and injuring 7 others before officers fatally shot the suspect, the city's police commissioner said. No motive for the gun violence was immediately apparent, but Police Commissioner Mike Sack told an early evening news conference the assailant may have suffered from mental illness. Students fleeing from the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School as police arrived on the scene told officers the shooter was armed with a rifle, Sack said. Police exchanged gunfire with the suspect after storming the school, and he was shot dead, ending the rampage about 15 minutes after the first calls for help came in at about 9:10 a.m. The commissioner said. The suspect was identified as Orlando Harris, 19 years old, who graduated from high school last year and had no previous criminal history, Sack told reporters. A 61-year-old teacher and a 16-year-old girl were killed, Sack said. 4 other teenagers suffered gunshot wounds and 3 more youths sustained other injuries in the pandemonium. President Joe Biden was scheduled to get his updated COVID-19 booster shot on Tuesday and urged the public to get theirs to ensure a healthy holiday season. Biden was to appear at the White House with the doctors who are leading administration efforts against the spread of the coronavirus. They were said to be joined by executives from several major drugstore chains, which are mounting renewed efforts to help people to get a dose of COVID-19 vaccine that has been reformulated to target the BA.4 and BA.5 subvariants of Omicron. the most dominant strains in the United States. Over 20 million people, including nearly 1 in 5 older adults, have already gotten the updated COVID-19 booster, the White House said. Biden is expected to again call on business, educational and civil leaders to do more to encourage their communities to get the updated vaccines, which are free of charge. 3 respiratory viruses are currently circulating in the US: the flu, COVID-19 and RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus, said Dr. Ashish Jha, leader of the White House response to COVID-19. Jha said during several morning TV show appearances that the combination of a flu shot and updated COVID booster now will help people avoid serious illness and stay out of the hospital as they get ready to celebrate Thanksgiving and other holidays with friends and family. The Biden administration is ratcheting up pressure on President Daniel Ortega's authoritarian rule in Nicaragua, threatening a ban on Americans from doing business in the nation's gold industry, raising the possibility of trade restrictions and stripping the US visas of some 500 government insiders. The actions stemming from an executive order signed by President Joe Biden on Monday are the latest and perhaps most aggressive attempt by the US to hold the former Sandinista guerrilla leader accountable for his continued attacks on human rights and democracy in the Central American country, as well as his continued security cooperation with Russia. Previous rounds of sanctions have focused on Ortega, his wife and Vice President Rosario Murillo, and members of their family and inner circle. But none of those moves have managed to loosen Ortega's grip on power, the latest target by Ortega's government, the Roman Catholic Church. In August, security raided the residence of a bishop, detaining him and several other clergy. The new executive order greatly expands a Trump-era decree declaring Ortega's hijacking of democratic norms, undermining of the rule of law, and use of political violence against opponents a threat to the US. A defiant Florida Governor Ron DeSantis refused to commit to serving a full 4-year term if re-elected when pressed by his Democratic rival Charlie Crist at their only gubernatorial debate on Monday. Crist, a former congressman and one-term governor, accused DeSantis, a rising Republican star considered a likely 2024 presidential contender, of being too distracted by his national political ambitions to lead properly. DeSantis skirted several attempts by Crist to get him to say he would serve a full second term. There were several heated clashes during a raucous debate that covered the COVID-19 pandemic, abortion, crime, education, and President Joe Biden. The meeting came on the first day of early voting across the state. Already more than 1.1 million votes have been cast, the most in the nation. The Florida governor's race may not be the nation's most competitive election this fall, but it is no less consequential for DeSantis, a 44-year-old Harvard-educated Republican who could launch a presidential bid in the coming months. He hopes to use a strong re-election victory on November 8 in Florida, a state he carried by just 32,000 votes out of 8.2 million cast 4 years ago, to demonstrate the breadth and strength of his support. In-person early voting begins Tuesday in battleground Wisconsin amid ongoing lawsuits affecting which ballots can be counted or tossed, recently ordered bans on drop boxes, and restrictions on who can return ballots. The opening of the in-person voting period marks the beginning of the final 2-week push to Election Day in the swing state where both Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and Democratic Governor Tony Evers are on the ballot. Polls have shown the governor's race between Evers and Republican Tim Michels to be about even, while Johnson has an apparent lead over Democratic Governor Mandela Burns in the Senate race. Both sides are trying to educate their voters on the changing absentee voting rules, pushed by conservatives who led efforts making it more difficult to vote that way. Early voting locations and hours vary across the state, but the window to allow the option runs from Tuesday through November 6. Voters can return absentee ballots on election day and also register at the polls. Harmony Montgomery's father killed the 5-year-old girl in December 2019 by repeatedly striking her in the head with a closed fist, authorities said Monday as they announced charges in a case that came to light when her mother reported she hadn't seen her in over 2 years. Adam Montgomery, 32 years old, is charged with second-degree murder, falsifying physical evidence and abuse of a corpse between December 2019 and March 2020, officials said at a news conference in Manchester, where Harmony lived with her father and a stepmother. He also is charged with tampering with a witness by attempting to cause his wife to provide false testimony. He was scheduled to be arraigned Tuesday in Manchester. Authorities did not say whether the girl's body had been found or provide details on what they believe Montgomery did with it. An attorney for Adam Montgomery did not immediately comment. Ash Carter, who as Defense Secretary in the final 2 years of the Obama administration opened military combat jobs to women and ended a ban on transgender people serving in the military, has died at age 68. Carter died after suffering a heart attack on Monday evening, according to a statement Tuesday from Douglas Elmendorf, Dean of Harvard University's Kennedy School. Carter had served as director of the school's Welfare Center for Science and International Affairs. Before Carter was named the Defense Department Secretary, he served in President Barack Obama's administration as its top procurement officer and oversaw the department's effort to speed more than 24,000 mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles to Iraq and Afghanistan. At the time, thousands of US troops were being maimed or killed by roadside bombs because there was not adequate protection in the vehicles they were operating. Carter frequently mentioned the rapid development and procurement of those vehicles as one of his proudest accomplishments. Leslie Jordan, the actor whose wry Southern drawl and versatility made him a comedy and drama standout on TV series including Will and Grace and American Horror Story, has died. The Emmy winner, whose videos turned him into a social media star during the pandemic, was 67 years old. The world is definitely a much darker place today without the love and light of Leslie Jordan. Not only was he a mega talent and joy to work with, but he provided an emotional sanctuary to the nation at one of its most difficult times, a representative for Jordan said in a statement Monday. The native of Chattanooga, Tennessee, who won an Outstanding Guest Actor Emmy in 2005 for his part as Beverly Leslie in Will and Grace, had a recurring role on the Mayim Bialik comedy Call Me Cat and starred on the sitcom The Cool Kids. Jordan's other eclectic credits include Hearts Afire, Boston Legal, Fantasy Island, and The United States vs. Billie Holiday. He played various roles on the American Horror Story series. Production on Fox's Call Me Cat was suspended following Jordan's death. He had completed work on 9 episodes. He died Monday in a single car crash in the Hollywood area, according to reports by celebrity website TMZ and the Los Angeles Times, citing unidentified law enforcement sources. Adidas has ended its partnership with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West over his offensive and anti-Semitic remarks, the latest company to cut ties with Ye, and a decision that the German sportswear company said would hit its bottom line. Adidas does not tolerate anti-Semitism and any other sort of hate speech, the company said in a statement Tuesday. Yes, recent comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and they violate the company's values of diversity and inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. The company faced pressure to cut ties with Ye, with celebrities and others on social media urging Adidas to act. It said at the beginning of the month that it was placing its lucrative sneaker deal with the rapper under review. Adidas said Tuesday that it conducted a thorough review and would immediately stop production of its line of Yeezy products and stop payments to Ye and his companies. The sportswear company said it was expected to take a hit of up to 250 million euros to its net income this year from the move. The move by Adidas, whose CEO Kasper Rorsted is stepping down next year, comes after Ye was suspended from Twitter and Instagram this month over anti-Semitic posts that the social network said violated their policies. A Russian court on Tuesday upheld the 9-year prison sentence handed to American basketball star Brittney Griner for drug possession, rejecting her appeal. Griner, an 8-time All-Star center with the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury and a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, was convicted August 4 after police said they found vape canisters containing cannabis oil in her luggage at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport. The Moscow Region Court ruled Tuesday to uphold the sentence. In the ruling, the court stated, however, that the time Griner will have to serve in prison will be recalculated with her time in pre-trial detention taken into account. 1 day in pre-trial detention will be counted as 1.5 days in prison, so the basketball star will have to serve around 8 years in prison. Griner took part in the Moscow Regional Court hearing via video call from a penal colony outside Moscow where she is imprisoned. Griner's February arrest came at a time of heightened tensions between Moscow and Washington, just days before Russia sent troops into Ukraine. At the time, Griner was returning to Russia, where she played during the US League's off-season. Griner admitted she had the canisters in her luggage, but testified that she inadvertently packed them in haste and had no criminal intent. Her defense team presented written statements saying she had been prescribed cannabis to treat pain. Now it's time for global updates. Rishi Sunak on Tuesday became Britain's third Prime Minister this year and the first person of colour to lead the former imperial power, vowing to mend its stricken finances after Liz Truss lasted just 49 days. Sunak was set to speak outside 10 Downing Street after his appointment by King Charles III, capping the latest extraordinary twist in UK politics following Boris Johnson's demise in July. Departing Downing Street a little before, Truss wished Sunak every success and said she remained more convinced than ever that Britain needed to be bold in confronting the challenges it faced. Sunak became the ruling Conservatives' new leader on Monday after triumphing over rival contender Penny Mordaunt, who failed to secure enough nominations from Tory MPs. It had become a two-way fight after Johnson dramatically aborted a comeback attempt late Sunday, having failed to persuade Sunak to share power. He has maintained a deafening silence since. Sunak, a Hindu, is the first British Indian Prime Minister and at 42, the youngest leader in more than 2 centuries. US President Joe Biden called the choice groundbreaking and vowed to reach out to Sunak shortly. Germany's president arrived in Kiev on Tuesday for his first visit to Ukraine since the start of Russia's invasion, as Western countries mold a massive plan for Ukrainian rebuilding when the war eventually ends. President Frank-Walter Steinmeier said after arriving that it was important to me in this phase of air attacks with drones, cruise missiles, and rockets to send a signal of solidarity to Ukrainians. 8 months of pummeling by the Kremlin's forces has ruined homes, public buildings, and the power grid. The World Bank estimates the damage to Ukraine so far at 350 billion euros. The German president, whose position is largely ceremonial, made it to Ukraine on his third try. In April, he was planning to visit the country with his Polish and Baltic counterparts, but said his presence apparently wasn't wanted in Kiev. Steinmeier has been criticized in Ukraine for allegedly cozying up to Russia during his time as Germany's foreign minister. Last week, a planned trip was put off because of security concerns. Brazilian voters are being bombarded by online misinformation less than a week before they pick their next leader. People on social media say wrongly that the leftist candidate in Brazil's presidential election, plans to close down churches if elected. There are lies that Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva wants to let men use public school restrooms next to little girls. And they are falsely alleging that right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro has made comments confessing to cannibalism and pedophilia. Baseless and politically motivated rumors are whipping through social media in Latin America's largest democracy, roiling Brazilian politics much as US politics has been roiled. The onslaught of fake rumors helped prompt Brazil last week to enact what some experts call the strictest limits on speech in the country's young democracy. It's a conundrum posed by social media across the world, especially in countries wrangling with the intersection between modern technology and free speech. Brazil has adopted a particularly heavy-handed approach. Experts say that in doing so, authorities have raised questions about the country's commitment to free speech. Airstrikes by Myanmar's military killed as many as 80 people, including singers and musicians, attending an anniversary celebration of the Kachin ethnic minority's main political organization, members of the group and rescue workers said Monday. The reported attack comes 3 days before Southeast Asian foreign ministers are to hold a special meeting in Indonesia to discuss widening violence in Myanmar. The number of casualties at Sunday night celebration held by the Kachin Independence Organization in the northern state of Kachin appeared to be the most in a single air attack since the military seized power in February 2021 from the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Initial reports put the death toll at around 60, but later tallies raised it to about 80. It was impossible to independently confirm details of the incident, though media sympathetic to the Kachin posted videos showing what was said to be the attack's aftermath, with splintered and flattened wooden structures. Now a look of today's sports stories. The clock was running down in the second quarter and the pocket was collapsing around Justin Fields, with one defender coming at him from the right, another circling around on his left, and a third coming straight at him. A quick pump fake froze one of the rushers. Fields drifted left, barely eluding the outstretched arm of another, and then Shutter stepped to the right to squeeze through a hole that barely existed. And then it was a race to the sideline, picking up 20 yards on a 3rd and 14 and moving Chicago into field goal range. Fields threw for 179 yards and a touchdown and ran for 82 yards and another score on Monday night, converting 5 third downs with his legs and 5 more with his arm to lead Chicago to a 33-14 victory over the New England Patriots. Qatar's ruling emir on Tuesday lashed out at criticism of his country over its hosting of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, describing it as an unprecedented campaign targeting the first Arab nation to hold the tournament. Since winning hosting rights for the World Cup over a decade ago, Qatar has faced scrutiny and criticism for its treatment of migrant workers and the gay community, among other issues. The alleged abuses affecting legions of low-paid laborers who power Qatar's economy and who built its gleaming World Cup stadiums have been a lightning rod for protest around the world, especially in Europe. Qatar has repeatedly pushed back, insisting the country has improved protections for migrant workers and claiming the criticism is outdated. In a televised speech before the Emirates' legislative body on Tuesday, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said, Qatar has been subjected to an unprecedented campaign that no host country has ever faced. Now let's have a look on today's weather chart. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.